China. What is going to happen, you think, in this conference regarding Africa, South Africa and Africa's relationship, economic relationship with China?
Well, I hope it's going to grow from strength to strength. And we are hopeful that that growth will see Africa benefiting even more. China is an important trading partner, and I think they are open to engagement and discussion on the nature of trade relationship that each of our countries should have with them. So I think it's great that South Africa has invited African leaders to be part of the outreach, the Brics Plus outreach, which will include them in a much more concentrated discussion with China on our partnership as Africa with them. But, you know, there's no way that any country wouldn't trade with China. It's a huge market, there are massive opportunities, and we all need to take advantage of that while ensuring that our own economies benefit as well.
And they're interested in a couple of areas, we were saying before we went on air. Agriculture is one, obviously they've got a huge population to feed. But the second one, which might surprise people, is computing. And I understand that's because South Africa is the host of the SKA telescope.
Well, they were very intrigued by work that has been done by some of the team working on the SKA, particularly in the area of high-performance computing. As you know, one of the things that we will have to do with the data that we gather with the radio telescope is we're going to have to process it. To do that, the processing capacity you need is significant and currently doesn't exist. But we have a team working on developing the software and the hardware necessary, the programs that will do this massive work for us. And they were very intrigued at the motherboards that have been developed by our teams in the SKA computing team, the High Performance Center, that is the South African High Performance Computing at Cape Town University. So they were saying we want to collaborate on this.
So it could be the case that after so many years, South Africa's been importing technology from China. It might be that
hopefully
we're exporting
we'll
it
have
back.
certainly some technology transfer out of developments such as this. We've already begun to see key exchanges between ourselves and several other countries with respect to infrastructure research projects of this kind. And we'd like that to continue, but it being from South African intellectual development rather than us always having technology transfer into South Africa.
Now, overall, this relationship, it seems that it's going to grow in terms of between South Africa and China. What are the things do you think that you, as a representative of the people here, have to watch out for and make sure that you make the best of in these negotiations?
There's a great deal of interest in, for example, mineral resources. I think what South Africa must look out for is that whenever it finalizes agreements on trade, it must be on the basis of the objectives South Africa wishes to achieve. So if we say we wish to have greater growth in manufacturing, or indeed have industrialization and so have factories and plants up in the country, we then have to pay attention to value addition and beneficiation. If we don't do that, we merely get back into the old practices of exporting raw minerals and purchasing back value-added products. We need to move away from that. So as we discuss access to magnesium, let's be talking about batteries rather than the raw product.
And the Chinese are open to this?
I believe absolutely, yes, they are. And in fact, I think we can be partners in such an initiative. But the location of that plant has to be here.
And the government will insist upon that, yeah?
We should. If we don't, then we're talking at cross purposes in terms of our policy objectives.
I understand from many of the people I've interviewed down the years, the Chinese are very, very tough negotiators when it comes to economics and business.
We must be equally tough. We have advantage. We have value. And I think we need to stand up and say that we have it and then use it to the interest of South Africa. I have always appreciated with the Chinese that they've said to us many, many times in meetings that we are not colonizers and don't, behave toward us in this partnership as though we've come here to impose ourselves. We'd like to look for a win-win outcome, and this is what President Xi repeated several times yesterday.
So you're a lot more confident. But speaking about tough and trouble, your fellow Minister Rob Davis was saying this morning he fears that South Africa could be collateral damage in this trade war if it kicks off around the world, emanating from the United States and Donald Trump. Well, what are your fears for it?
Well, I think there certainly is that fear, and of course Minister Davies is best placed to ensure that we don't become collateral damage, because I'm hoping that he and the Minister of Commerce of China are discussing how South Africa can become a beneficiary from the likely fallout. So we shouldn't wait for our currency to be affected by the possibility of a trade war or affected by the most recent announcement. We should be looking at what are the key sectors that we need to ready to take advantage of opportunity, because if I were China, I'm looking for reliable friends. And I think South Africa should begin to position itself in that way.
And one final question, another issue that's been raised to me this morning is saying that Brics countries, they invest a lot around the world, but people would like to see them invest more amongst the membership of Brics. What do you feel about that?
I certainly think that the Brics partnership is a very intriguing global grouping that has a very different agenda from other groupings in our multilateral world. And so I do think they need to define a more proactive agenda, a much more pragmatic one, and one that challenges received wisdom in international relations.
Minister Naledi Pandor, the co-chair of the Ministerial Committee on Brics, thank you very much for joining us here on Power Lunch.